And welcome back, everybody, to the Fandom Zone. It is I, the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying cowboy in the universe today, General
Sure.
Zod.
I was going to
uh,
cheer you till you said cowboy.
but yeah, I'm here to talk about some Clone Wars. Talk about the episode 2, A Distant Echo, which I have some mixed feelings about. I can't wait to get your thoughts on this. I mean, I had some mixed feelings about how the episode exactly went down. I'm very curious about where it's going to go as far as moving forward. But already we have a troll in the chat. Oh wait, it's PB.
Welcome.
But anyways, here with me to give a great analysis and sort of have the intellectual side that
I
I
don't know.
promised
I don't know. Apparently, I don't know what I'm talking about.
is the ever controversial Mr. Lonely Banter. And welcome, Gary North. I'm sure we're gonna pop in, and really quickly before we dive into this episode, uh, you know, I keep on getting the thing you were talking about, man. These notifications for the stream seem like they go out. Like we'll be mid talk is when we start getting a lot of people in.
I
Fucking
got
hell.
the notification. I got the notification. Let me see. I got it like after you. Well, obviously, you're not going to get it right when you say, all right, I'm live, but I got it like a minute later.
Good. It's good to see that they are not messing with me because, dude, I got 2 copyright claims in the
For,
same day.
for what?
One for a talk we did on Google Hangouts disappearing. I don't know. Sony said I put something in there. I have to go back through and watch the video. They just said it won't broadcast in certain companies, but they're not like taking the video down. And then one they took down for my review on the house that Jack built for the picture that I used. I've never actually had a video pulled for the picture once.
Hmm.
This is like the first time that's ever happened to me. And I was like, bro, like Matt Dillon looked good in that picture. Like, I don't know if I take the picture down and put another one in and I guess
Hmm.
re-upload it. But yeah, man, it's been a weird day. And of course, Twitter, always fun.
I love Twitter.
I know, man. That's like endless source of entertainment. Boy, it's a interesting platform. But yeah. So let me first, before we dive into the episode and everything, let me get your thoughts. Like, how are you feeling? How are you liking the directions? I know that you're not a big clone side of the story, but how do you feel like what they're setting up for the season so far?
I'm liking. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm I'm ready to dig deep into the conclusion. Like I want the Ahsoka stuff and then the whole Order 66 arc. That's what I want. But I'm cool with this. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't have any complaints. So it'll be interesting to see what you have to say, and then maybe you'll put some thoughts into my head.
All right. So my complaints are very small, and it's because I'm trying to look at it at a reviewing standpoint. Which once again, Disney, it's hard to do these reviews when I'm only getting like an episode at a time. Because then what I go back through is I play episode 1, episode 2, and try to see how the story flows as I'm watching it. And I'm liking the stuff, but my big thing is the episodes are very short, and
Yeah,
I'm wondering, like, exactly if 12 episodes is going to be enough to wrap up all of the story threads because remember, I watched the previous seasons to get caught up, and there's still a lot of things that are hanging. And they did say they're going to try to address everything that was left wide open. And it's kind of weird to me because 12 episodes seems like a short amount of episodes to try to explain everything. Now we had a theory that they were going to do a part two, and I'm almost thinking they'd have to because this story seems that they're doing right now seems like a very slow build, and I don't mean action wise. I just mean what we're getting from week to week.
Hmm.
It seems like they're slowly telling this story. Uh, like we're getting a lot of insight to how like Echo is feeling, you know what I mean? Getting hit or not Echo, Rex. How Rex is feeling. We're kind of getting more into their mindset and kind of how the clones are in general, right? Because when they
Yeah,
were first introduced, it was almost like in the movies they were just these mindless people that they put in the front lines to help them boast their numbers. But when you watch Clone Wars, you see they've been developing their own personalities, groups, cliques, people that they respect and admire, you know. And war tends to do that. You tend to form bonds and have strong relationships with the people that you're in battle with.
absolutely.
So I understand that, but man, it seems like a lot to try to wrap up in 12 episodes. I mean, what do you think? Do you think the story might be moving like a little bit slower given the amount of episodes that they have at their disposal to tell it?
I don't think it's moving too slow. I mean, to me, it moves at the same pace all the Clone Wars episodes move at. It's just, people are just so used to the binging thing.
Like I said too, I might be a victim of that binge mentality because it's a lot easier for me to do something on like an altered carbon that released everything at once where I can go, okay, here's the story. I actually was gonna put out a quick review, but I decided to do a spoiler review because there's just so much in there for me to point out what I like. I have to like break it down
Yeah.
because that story is so deep. But you know, for that I was like, okay, now I can go back through with my notepad and take notes. This is a little bit harder doing it one episode at a time because it's like, okay, one episode drop, I gotta go back. Now, how does it go from episode to episode? Are the episodes related? Is one disconnected? But this is just my theory. I feel like they're breaking it up into two parts. Like we're gonna get the clone side of things, like we said, it looks like for the first half, and then the second half is going to be the Jedi Ahsoka stuff.
Yeah.
So
We gonna see. What I was gonna say, and you also got to remember, like, this is the first time the Clone Wars has aired like live without commercials.
that's
So
true.
that's why it makes the episodes seem much more quicker. Because I mean, think about it. Like when you're binging, like if you're binging the Clone Wars, you're watching episodes back to back to back. So everything just, it doesn't seem like the episodes are so fast. But now we're watching the show live, only one episode a week without the commercials. That's why it seems like the episodes are short, and then you might feel like, okay, not a lot is going on. Because like if you watch this Bad Batch arc at the end of the season, like if you're binging it or if you're watching it on the Blu-ray, you're watching it all at once. So you could do the whole thing in just under 2 hours. So that's also a possibility for people.
Yeah, and I think the Mandalorian suffered from the same kind of thing because the Mandalorian had those two or so filler episodes in between, so it messed up the flow of the story. But as I watched it again and I watched them consecutively, it flowed a lot better because I could do it back to back to back and be like, okay, I see what's going on here. They did it just like any show would. You have your main story arc, they come back to it at the end, and then you have the like little adventures in between because he is a bounty hunter. So you have to throw in some wacky, stuff in between there to kind of break it up, and then you come back to what the main storyline is. And really, that's what any television show does. It's just like you said, we're so conditioned to be watching these things back to back. And it's no different than like Arrow or something like that, right? You got those episodes in between the series that have nothing to do with the story that's going on. It might like reference something, but it's just something that's in the middle of it, and then you come back to it.
Yeah,
And I think
episodic
people,
TV.
yeah, people have sort of gotten away from episodic TV now. So it's hard to judge an episode individually on its own merits these days because of just the way that it's been going. But uh, we started off in the beginning with them following the distress signal, and I gotta say I did like that part with Anakin going to sneak off and talk to Padme. I like that they make references that are still connected to like episode 3 and things like that, right? We
Yeah.
knew he was talking with her. Now, here's what I wanted to throw out, and maybe I'm just being crazy, but did it look like they made her look pregnant there?
Yeah,
She
yeah. I
was
mean, yeah, yeah. She's definitely pregnant, and I mean, obviously Anakin doesn't know because she doesn't tell him until episode 3 during the scene. But yeah, she looks pregnant and the reason I've said that is because she kept having her hands like around her stomach, like you know how women do, like they hold their stomach because the baby stuff.
Yep. So I'm looking and I'm like, wow, they're actually like referencing that. And this is the thing that I like. I feel like this show is still kind of just picking up as it would have been, back in the early 2000s. They're still referencing things from those original episode 1, 2, and 3. They're still in that universe. And I was really digging that. I mean, it's a little scene, and one would say, "Oh, it detracts," but it really doesn't because it's following the movies, right? Because we know he's still sneaking off and talking to her. And here's my other thing that I kind of had a nitpick with. Did
What's that?
Obi-Wan know or didn't he know that they were going out? Because now it seems like he dropped a heavy hint as if Obi-Wan already knew he was talking. Well, he basically said, "Tell Padme that I said hi." And this has always bothered me in the movies. Did he already knew they were having a relationship? I mean, what did he think was going to go about that whole thing, right?
Man, I haven't seen the movie since before the Force Awakens, so if I can remember, he knew in episode 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they had the scene where him and her are talking like in her home. I
Yeah.
think, but as far as I remember, up until this point, he didn't know.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I felt was kind of off because it felt like the show was making a reference to something that hasn't happened yet. Or they're like, oh, we're gonna put a joke in there. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
And I was kind of feeling that was a little bit out of place because if you're going with the movie, the in the movie he acted as if he didn't know until he confronted them, unless it was about the kid. I have to go back through and watch Revenge of
Yeah.
the Sith again. I know for certain he doesn't know about the child, but maybe he did know about their relationship because remember he had a relationship in Clone Wars too with the pacifist during the whole Mandalorian arc.
Satine.
Yes, Satine. So when he was on that mission, and there's nothing saying Jedi haven't, slept with women and things like that. It's just they can't form emotional attachments. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably just like I kind of saw this coming. Whatever, it's just a thing.
I thought that whole exchange with Rex and Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan letting them know, like, at the end, like, I know. I thought that was funny. It made me laugh. I thought this
Yeah, it
episode was
did.
funny overall.
Oh yeah. That's another thing that I like too is that the humor. It's like it's heavy nostalgia for me because this feels like, I don't care what anyone says, this feels so much closer to old Star Wars. It really does. These episodes do feel like a Star Wars show. I mean, I would say more so than The Mandalorian. I mean, The
Yeah.
Mandalorian had callbacks and they were awesome to watch and things like that, but this really feels like Star Wars, you know?
Hmm.
It feels like something in the Star Wars universe, and I really appreciate it for that. You know, you still got the humor, but that was always in there, and it's dark too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, that scene with Echo. I mean, and I'm jumping around a bit, but that was like, bro, that was some heart wrenching stuff there.
Man, like watching it, I just watched it again a few minutes ago. I was like, man, because like when I'm live streaming and watching it, like I miss certain details because I'm paying attention to a stream and watching and then commentating at the same time. So watching it the second time around, I was like, man, I didn't notice the bottom half of his body, like he had cyborg type legs and stuff like that, and like just the little intricacies of him. He's just like, man, this is deep here, man.
I know. It's like the thing that they've always done well with the clones is giving them these kind of rich layers to a character. And I thought about this a lot. I was actually taking notes of what I wanted to say. Believe it or not, Zod
Good,
is trying to be professional, and I
good.
was thinking to myself, man, these these clones are supposed to be just genetically made, right? They're just supposed to be essentially disposable when you really think about it, which is kind of shitty on the Jedi's part, right?
Yeah,
But that's desperate times, right? So they're disposable soldiers in this war, for the greater good. And that's another thing that the show explores well is the aspects of that. Hey, these are still kind of people. Once they got life, they're people. They have their own wants, they have their own needs, they have their own desires and things that they want to do. And the show explores that aspect of the clones themselves so well, like the human aspect.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to come to terms. Like, is it because it's the final season? But like, I'm really liking the clones a lot more. But yeah, I agree. I mean, they always had the human element to them, and it was needed because you didn't see that in the Clone Wars not Clone Wars movies, but you didn't see that in episode 2 and 3. So like at the end of this, man, and you go back and watch episode 3 when you're seeing them all turn on the Jedi, man, it'll be a lot more effective.
Yeah, when I watched Revenge of the Sith a while back, having seen all of the Clone Wars, that scene then in Revenge of the Sith, where they all turn and they start shooting Jedi, it feels more painful because this is programming, and it brings it back to that these guys are being used. Okay, if anything, the clones are just as much of victims as the Jedi were because they had chips put in them to be used for someone else's overall plan. I mean, Palpatine really is an evil, manipulative bastard. I mean, because you know he's still using them. He doesn't see them as people, and when you
Yeah.
see them, and you don't get a lot of context, like were some of them trying to fight that programming and stuff like this until you start watching Clone Wars, like the thing that happened with Fives, right? Fives went on the run. He pulled out his own chip
Mm-hmm.
and became like an enemy of the Republic, hunted
Yeah.
by his own people that he served with, all because he found out this plan and he didn't want to turn against these people he had been fighting with for years, you
Yep.
know? And that's just some great writing. And welcome, Wookiee Supremacy. Good to see you. Welcome to the 5 people watching out there. Appreciate having you for this review on episode 2, A Distant Echo. I even like the title, man. Just so far, the writing across the board has been pretty stellar. I mean, have you found anything, if we're nitpicking, anything that really bugs you? Anything you feel that's like kind of out of place?
No, I haven't found anything that was like, man, this was corny. And now when you now I don't want to compare the two because it's two completely things, and that one has been around a lot much longer. But compared to the Mandalorian, like every episode of the Mandalorian, there was some cringe dialogue in every single episode. With this so far, there hasn't been anything like, But then again, I guess it's because it's essentially a cartoon, so it's like, you can give more leeway to things like that because it's like a show that's catering to kids most of the time. But yeah, I haven't seen
Yeah,
anything yet.
yeah, and here's the thing that's always kind of floored me about this series as opposed to most other stuff that they've done in Star Wars is that the Clone Wars, for being a cartoon, takes kind of more of a anime. I know you hate hearing it, but like an anime vibe. And what I mean is that anime uses mature dialogue as opposed to the kiddie stuff that we use to kind of water it down. They use, real world stuff.
Yeah.
And Clone Wars has kind of taken a beat from that, where the dialogue and everything feels like things people would say. The jokes feel like jokes that comrades would make with each other,
Mm-hmm.
while towing that Disney line. So,
So let me ask you then: is this technically anime?
well, I can hear Perp from the distance going, "Hell no!" But I would like to point out that anime, and there's this anime called Berserk that I watch. And if you look, it uses this 3D shading for some episodes. It looks horrendous when they try to mix the two of them, but they do take the American 3D shading and put it into their style of drawing. So I mean, one could probably make the argument that this is closer to anime as far as Americanized cartoons go than really anything I've seen that isn't from Japan, like Dragon Ball Z or something.
Oh, okay.
I mean, just the style. I've seen some animes that have used the same exact. They call it a 3D shade, cell shading, or you know what I mean. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about. They've
I
used
do.
that kind of style in their stuff. There's another anime called Appleseed
Uh huh.
that uses completely 3D uh, rendering and things like that, and it's an amazing movie. But I mean, it uses almost the exact same style of art,
Mm-hmm.
and it just blends the Japanese style with the American 3D animation. So I mean, they're both collaborating. You see too some animes using our style to tell their story. Now the difference is that America, I feel like, can blend it a lot better because we use the technology all the time in every movie. Oh God, man. I can't wait to put out my review for Call of the Wild, man. Such a good movie. That dog took me out of it though. Oh, that was atrocious. It is like that was an example of where we overuse the 3D animation. But yeah, man, to answer your question, I think that uh one could call it anime in a sense, just because too, when you look at the Clone Wars, it doesn't have a traditional like drawing style feel to it. Maybe it's just the final product we see, but I'd like to see like them conceptually making it to see how much of it is the standard cartoon drawing versus the 3D polygraphs and stuff that they put over the top of it. And if anyone in the comments knows like what the ratio is or anything like that, if we got some artists in there, let me know. What do you think? Do you think that this is close to anime? Do you think they take some cues from there? I mean, like even just like looking at Yoda, right? Look at
Right.
Yoda in the Clone Wars. If you were to see him like drawn in animation, and I believe I've seen like a rough draft sketch when they were first conceptualizing it, it felt like uh, more of an anime drawing than it did an American drawing of Yoda, let's say, for lack of a better term. Like even with them just sketching out the cartoons before they put the 3D on them,
Uh huh.
So I think that Filoni may be very heavily influenced by the way the Japanese do their art styles.
You might be onto something there, bruh.
You know, I mean, hey, I told you we're gonna get deep into it, and that's a good question because to tell you the truth, I've kind of always felt like even okay with the dialogue, with the violence especially, it never felt like a kid's show. Like everyone would go, "Oh, you're watching Clone Wars, that's for kids," and I go, "Nah, have you seen it?" Like
Right.
it was like season two episodes like five or six or somewhere in there where like dude gets stabbed through the back with a lightsaber by Ventress. That's not like kid stuff, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I, I, I don't know if the show, because I mean, I remember the show didn't have really good, not good, great ratings. So I don't know if being on Cartoon Network hurt the show or not. But it did start out kiddie, but then it gradually became more of an adult type TV show.
Oh yeah, you could see like I watched the first season, right? And you know, the first season you could see kind of more fun and stuff like that, but as you get into more of the arcs, as you start getting into the war, it takes like a turn where it gets more bleak and
Yeah.
like you're seeing like more stuff. I mean, I can't remember and I got to go back because I'm still rewatching because it's a long series, but there's an episode where Anakin has like a trial uh, to kind of uh, see where he is within the light and the dark side. He gets captured by some people or something, and they have like a Jedi trial. And when he goes in, he essentially fails, and it foreshadows what he does in episode two, where he slaughters all of the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's actually an episode in Clone Wars where he sees himself doing that, and the things are like, "You are going to fail. You're going to turn to the dark side." And then Obi-Wan saves him, and he's like, "What did you see?" And he goes, "Nothing, never mind," and kind of walks away in the end of the episode. And I was like, "Wow, that is really bleak." And then when you connect that to movie two, it was foreshadowing what he was going to do later to all of the, the village of the Tusken Raiders. So it's pretty interesting those little things that they put into the episodes.
Yeah, man. There's so many little details, and I mean, a lot goes on too. Like they're quick episode, but a lot goes on too, man. Love it, love it.
So, we get the distress signal. They come onto the planet. Their ship gets attacked by these flying things, and I believe this is a brand new planet.
It's called. Let me double check. It's called Skako Minor.
Skeko Minor, yeah. And the creatures, they don't talk a language that
They're called
even a Jedi can
Poltec.
pick up on. Yeah.
I mean, they was. I don't know if this is how you pronounce it, but they're called Poltec. That's how it's spelled. Poletec. So it could be Poltec or Politec. Who knows? But they just weird looking species.
And so, they can fight and the one of the Bad Batch can actually speak what multiple languages, or he can hone in, or he had something to translate what they were saying and then speak it back in his like visor thing.
Uh huh.
And I thought that was pretty cool. Like it was cool to see that the clones have tech that makes them adaptable for any kind of planet, because they go to war on different planets, and it's a minor thing, right?
Right.
Saying that, hey, because you're always wondering like how do they make friends with the locals and stuff, and it's a little minor detail, but it's cool that they put it into the show to show you like they have software to translate. But this is my other thing then. If they have the software, why in the hell do we have like C3PO?
C3PO can't be everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, but I would think that they would for missions like, you know, have them have translator droids, but I guess on a battlefield, they'd shoot the droid. That they're useless. We've seen what droids do
Yeah.
in like any season. They always get shot.
Yeah. That's one
So
guarantee. They can't do anything.
No, so it was pretty cool seeing like that they had the gear to translate. And the cool part about it was when he talked through his helmet, it would talk in their language so that he could see what they're saying and then speak something back to him. I just thought that that was a cool little detail.
Yeah, man. It was Yeah, I mean, like small little details like that is like what I noticed the second time around watching, like with the visor thing, compared to the first time I was watching. Because, like I said, I was doing the stream, so like second time around, it's like, oh, something cool there.
Yeah, I
And
mean, go ahead.
no, 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 go ahead. I wasn't to say anything special.
No, I was just gonna say, and this is the things that like this is why I was when I was coming up and like people were all like, "Oh, you're getting hyped for the seventh season of Clone Wars." I was like, "Yeah," because it's people don't realize like when you make a show, there's shows that are made on television where they expect you to just go along with something as you would say just because, right? There's no writing to back up why things are happening. It's just like, oh, we only got 45 minutes, so we got to do this, this, and this. And sometimes I feel like they lose the attention of detail. Like, how would this person know this? How do they get from here to here? And those little things matter. And Clone Wars handles that well. It'd be like, okay, they crash landed. How are they going to interact with the species if Anakin can't talk multiple languages?
Clone Wars matters, people.
So they get on the planet, they get into a scuffle, they find out that these creatures are essentially just like them. These people are invading their space, so they give them help and let them know where this facility is. And there's a cool back and forth between the leader of the Bad Batch and Rex, where he tells him he's letting his emotions get in the way of the mission.
Yep. And it also follows up on when Padme was speaking to Anakin, and then Anakin told Padme that earlier on in the episode.
And Padme, I like how Padme goes, and you don't kind of a thing.
Right.
Like,
He's like, good point.
you run on, like Anakin runs on pure emotion. Everything he does, for the most part, is based on his emotions. Like he'll start with a plan, but he's not Obi-Wan. Like if you take the two of them and compare them, Obi-Wan's a tactician. He's probably the best at separating his feelings, even like in his arc where he was battling, the Mandalorian uprise. He was still very calculating on what he did, and he had something to lose. Where Anakin, he'll start out with a plan, and then if he sees a friend in danger, he just kind of ad libs as he goes.
Yeah, he's just like YOLO.
And then it's on. And the only reason why they get out of scrapes is because there's always that level-headed person. And it was kind of interesting seeing Anakin be the level-headed person in this situation. And that raises a question for me. I'll be like going through this. Like, is Anakin like less emotionally charged because he doesn't see the clones as he would, a friend? I mean, it brings up a good question of how the Jedi actually view the clones. Like, we know he's close with them. Everyone respects him, but he's the level-headed one in this. And Rex is the one like, we got to move. We got to break in there right now, start shooting stuff up.
I mean, maybe Rex and what's his name? Echo had a thing going on.
Oh man. Oh, let's I mean, there is those rumors that when you spend a time with, never mind.
Oh, that's how it goes on in the military.
I'm not gonna say one way or the other. But I mean,
Well, that happens in prison.
But there is something to be said when you spend so much stuff army versus like the leaders. And this is another good breakdown. And I don't know if the show does this intentionally. Maybe they do, but it's a good breakdown between the higher command versus the people on the ground, right?
Uh
The
huh.
people on the ground form really strong bonds because they're in the middle of the fire. The first one's in, and the generals will pop in here and there, but in these skirmishes we don't see, right? When they're just battling with their buddies, you know, you form bonds there. So when one of your buddies is captured and you're part of that unit, you aren't going to have the same kind of mindset that someone's, there on a different mission. He clearly doesn't want, you know, Anakin doesn't want this knowledge falling into the Federation's hands, whereas Rex wants to save a friend. So there's two very different competing ideas.
Mm-hmm. It's possible.
And welcome, Mind Game 122. And yes, I went on a little bit of a ramble there.
It's okay. It's your live stream.
But these are things that I think really separate this show from other shows, is just a little attention to detail, the things that they put in that you can kind of separate from the rest of the stuff going on. And I mean, everyone's going to pull something out different from these scenes, these interactions. Maybe you just see a bunch of clones fighting. I don't know. So that that was I was just trying to get deep there, but they decide they're gonna make this move. Rex wants to go in guns blazing, but the leader of the Bad Batch says, "Let's do it stealth," and that works for about 3 seconds until until they trip the alarms. And let's talk about your favorite guy, that big guy. I like the scene when they drop into the planet and he's benching the droid.
that whole scene was funny, and then the action sequence was great.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, there's been a lot of action sequences along with a good mix of exposition. This is some fine writing. I like how they seem to place the action scenes. There's never a joke or anything that seems to be put out of place. It's not like, okay, take the new sequel trilogies, right? There'll be some action, and then someone says a joke in the middle of the action, and for me, that takes me out of the movie because it's like,
you mean everything that Finn says?
oh God, yes, he's just like a walking joke machine that isn't funny.
Finn is trash.
Like,
Finn is trash, by the way.
so it's like, it's good to see that when there's action in the show, there's just action. They'll say something snappy when the battle is winding down and they have a break, then they'll have their dialogue. And that's how things should be written. And, don't get me wrong, the new sequel trilogies aren't the only ones. Look at Marvel movies. Like, some of those jokes land, but sometimes they just pull a joke out there and you're like, what does that have to do with fighting like Ultron?
Yeah, you got a point. It happens. You're in deep beef and they're telling jokes. It's like, oh, okay. Is that how they do during wars?
Yeah, that's or you'll get the long monologue scene between like the villain and the good guys where they just stop and talk about what they're gonna do, and it's like, no one to do that.
Every single time.
You're not gonna have like a big action sequence and they go, wait, hold on, while we're shooting. I want to tell you about what I'm gonna do to you after I capture you. It's like, nah, man, that's not that's not how that would go down.
Every single time.
James Bond was like fight for that. Like, one of my favorite movies from James Bond was Goldfinger, but like, some of those scenes are just so
You mean
ridiculous.
Gold member?
No, that was the Austin Powers. I got you there, but no, he has him strapped up to a table. He's got a laser beam. Now he could have ended him like 15 different ways. And he stops and tells him about how he's going to break into the Federal Reserve and it's such a brilliant plan. And he's like, and you know that famous line, he's like, "Do you expect me to beg?" "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." I'm like, oh God, what are you watching? That is so cliche. And thankfully, you don't have a lot of that monologuing in this show, but you know, we got a great action sequences, some great fights in the hallway. You know, they try to stealth, and then a battle ensues. Everything breaks down. They run into the uh, the
the
little
ta-
control room.
yeah, the control room in the tower, in the Separatist tower.
Yep. And wasn't it they find out he's like across the way, or the signal is across the way.
Yeah,
So there's another battle to fight to get to the signal, and you know, they clear out the whole room. And like, I gotta say, like, I can't pick who I like more. Like, Rex has been my favorite clone trooper, but the dude from the Bad Batch, I'm starting to really like him. The leader there,
Hana.
like Hunter, yes. Oh my God, Hunter is a beast. Like, oh, he like ripped off a droid's head. Like, what? Like, oh my God, the dude is savage, just savage.
Yeah, he plays no games.
No, like, you know, Rex I like because he's got sort of an elegance when he fights. With, you know, he's got his two blasters and he's kind of going from side to side, and they'll grab a droid and shoot him in the chest or whatever. But Hunter is like savage in his fighting. Like, he jumps on their head, stabbing them with a knife. He's got that knife flicking out of his side, and that, you know, in that one part, I thought him and Rex were gonna come to blows for a second. And I'm like, bruh, I don't know if you're gonna win against Hunter. Like, I was sitting there, like, remember they're on top of that cliff and they get into the argument, and you know, Anakin has to step in, and I was like, nah, you don't want to fight the Bad Batch. They come off as like crazy. Like, out of those two groups, I'm gonna take the Bad Batch because they're more ruthless in the way that they approach battle than, you know, him. He's got more of a refine. He's with the Republic style of fighting, and these
Yeah,
guys just don't care.
they do what they got to do.
Yeah, I mean, look at that big guy. He enjoy like
Yeah,
he
Wrecker.
literally he enjoys battle.
Yeah, when they beat the droids, he's like cheering and screaming. I'm like, man, this man is crazy.
He's like, oh, is that it? Like, they just took out 15 robots. So he's just like, oh. So, I mean, there was some very good, awesome scenes. But
Yeah,
then, you know, and I try to drag out the review, but honestly, people, they're short episodes. We get to the ending, and we talked about this earlier. Probably one of the most emotional scenes happens, and it is that he finds Echo, and Echo man, he's jacked up. Like, wow,
yeah.
like
When I saw it,
he.
when I saw it the
Go
first
ahead.
time, I was like, man, he looked like Palpatine in Episode 9.
Right. And it's interesting you bring that up because an article in Yahoo, and it's from like Yahoo News or whatever. So I don't know how credible they are, honestly, but they were talking about how Clone Wars was referencing episode 9, Rise of Trash. There is like, oh, you know, this is a reference to how Palpatine was hooked up to all of that. I'm like, that's a stretch. Like, do you see it, or, you know?
Do I see what, like, connected to Palpatine somehow?
Yeah, like how they had Echo hooked up. They're trying to say that's the kind of stuff they were using to keep Palpatine alive.
Nah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
I mean,
you're taking two different timelines.
I mean, I mean, this, nah, that's just somebody reaching.
And that, so we get to the end of the episode, it's emotional, and of course we've got to wait till next Thursday, or this upcoming Thursday, to find out what's going to happen. But um yeah, that was pretty much the episode. So I want to get your grade, your overall thoughts, and then I'll give my grade.
Man, I don't remember what score I gave. I think I gave it an 8.5 or 9 or something. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the first episode. I laughed a lot during the episode. I mean, Wrecker was funny. Then, like I said, the scene with Obi-Wan, Rex, and Anakin, that made me laugh. Um, it's crazy. Like it made me laugh, but then like with the Echo stuff, it got real intense. It's like, man, this man's like chained up these cables. Like he's completely different. Like he's practically like Darth Maul was when he came back into the Clone Wars. Um, I mean, when he first came out, he was talking about his when he was on the Citadel, and it took him a while to realize that it was Rex. And he's like, man, you came for me, Rex. And he's like, man, this is deep stuff here, man. Um, I really don't have any nitpicks. I don't have any complaints at all, man. It's just this was a good episode.
And I'm sitting right there with you. I'd say at 8.5 and 9. I definitely rate it a little bit higher than the first one, but the first one was just getting us set up for the storyline that was going to come. I like the fact that they were able to kind of wrap this whole thing up, but we don't know the effects that this is going to have going forward. We don't know what they were doing or what the purpose was. It's still very unclear why the Federation was doing it, what they hope to achieve, if their overall plan happened. We do know in the episode they mentioned that they downloaded something, so we don't know exactly what they were taking from Echo all of this time. And to get back to that scene, I was thinking about that. He said, "You came for me," and if you look at Rex, he looks like really ashamed because Echo doesn't realize how many years and that they weren't really looking for him. They just happened to find the signal.
Hey, he don't know that yet.
Yeah. And I think this is pretty interesting because this could set up a conflict between Echo and Rex,
I
because
think so.
he's going to be asking, how long was I there? When did y'all come look for me and stuff like that? And Rex is going to be like, man, we had a funeral, take you to your grave spot here.
You know it's coming. Like he's gonna ask these questions. He's gonna like, hold up, they really wasn't trying to find me.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see if that creates a conflict. And also, too, in the trailers, we've got teasers that they were coming up with a new batch of stormtroopers, right? That remember in that like trailer that they dropped, and you saw like Rex kind of like leading that group. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what's different about the clones versus what we'd get later, which is the stormtrooper, which is very different from the Republic clones.
Hmm.
Because I think that as the stormtroopers went along, I don't think they're clones anymore, but they don't really tell us one way or the other if they are or they aren't, But I don't think they've been cloning this bounty hunter, through A New Hope, Empire Strikes
Oh
Back.
no, I remember. I don't. They died out. Like the clones after Episode 3, like around the A New Hope or whatever, they died out. So they started recruiting like real people.
So I think that they might set something up where they are recruiting people and kind of leaning towards that direction, because even like in the trailers, they looked more in line with what the stormtrooper would look like when you get to A New Hope, as opposed to what they look like in episodes 1, 2, and 3. So I'm really curious to see like how they're going to bring that into effect. If Rex is going to have arguments with how the new troopers are, as opposed to you know how they were and stuff like that. I think that would make very interesting conflicts because you could see Rex already is conflicted. You know,
I, he might be conflicted, but he's still gonna turn on those Jedi.
well, here's the thing. I got to go back to Rebels, but wasn't Rex in Rebels?
Man, I don't. I know there was a clone, and I don't know. Remember if it was Rex or Cody or something. I don't remember, man.
I know Cody was one. I believe like Fives was one too. I'm pretty sure Fives was in there because he talks about how he escaped and took out the chip after he found out that there was a chip inside of them. So, I mean, I know like Fives was there. I'm pretty sure it was Rex. If anyone knows, leave me a comment. Let me know exactly if Rex was one of them. I want to say it was Rex because he had the two blasters in his suit and he was all like fat and was trying to get into his old suit and he looked ridiculous. And like, here's the things too. I always enjoyed Rebels. I know at the end a lot of people were upset with what they did with Thrawn. Me personally, I thought he was a really good villain. The only part I didn't like of Rebels was the space whales. I'm with everyone. I have no clue what that had to do with anything. I thought that even Filoni said the space whales thing was ridiculous. Like he regrets putting that in. I mean, I was like, I have no clue, like what that had to do with anything. But other than that, I mean, I thought it was a pretty solid show. So I would like to see, like, how these things develop and how they're going to bridge that gap between going into episode 3, going into Rebels, all that stuff, because Rebels is supposed to be like literally before New Hope. So it'll be interesting. I'm very interested, but this is a good start. This has been a good, solid 2 episodes, very compelling, lots of action, and
Yep.
yeah, I'm with you. I give it a solid 9. Good stuff across the board.
Yeah, man. All in. I look forward to next week.
So let's get to some predictions because I like seeing the kind of the sneak peek stuff, and I didn't get a sneak peek. So what do you think they're going to, now that they got Echo and things like that? What are your predictions for this next episode? And
Well, let's see if they got the title of the next week's episode out yet. Let's see, episode 3. Let's see. I don't think so. Oh, they do. Oh yeah, they do because I talked about it. It's called "On the Wings of Karadex." So it says,
mm,
while Echo recovered, Rex, Bad Batch, and Anakin look to fight their way out of a separatist base. Dun, dun.
ooh, interesting. I do know that in the previews for the season, like overall, they showed Anakin with a lightsaber. Like his lightsaber was out and drawn, and and he was looking at Trench with the lightsaber ready to go. So,
Right.
do you think this might be the episode where he takes him out? Because we know he's not in any of the movies.
Yeah, it's possible.
And this would be another good characterization with Anakin just taking out another one of these leaders. Because we know he beheads Dooku, and that's sort of the starting backslide. But he really started sliding way before he ever took Count Dooku's head. I mean, he's had little moments where he's lost it and, pretty much killed a bunch of people. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do an episode in Clone Wars that kind of references his him losing his struggle to the dark side. and I could see him taking out Trench after finding Echo, because the look on his face when they got into the room and they seen what Echo looks like,
Right.
you know.
Man, I my prediction is next episode, Echo, he'll start to see, he'll be asking the question. Like we said earlier, he'll start asking questions and then start realizing they weren't really looking for you. And then I feel like Echo is going to turn on them.
I gotta say, I've had that feeling since they started this, is that, like, and just looking at it from that perspective, it's like he's all cool now because he just got rescued, but he doesn't realize the amount of time, the battles, everything that's been happening while he's been hooked up to these machines, with them probably torturing him for, you know, what, months, year? I don't even know the timeline right now. Like, he's been being tortured for a while now.
Yeah, he'll turn on them. Watch.
Oh yeah, it's going to be interesting too. And the other thing was, that was referenced, because this was part of the Order 66 arc, was when Trench first, uh, you know, he wanted to kidnap. It was a random clone, and he was part of that arc where he wanted to kidnap him because the chip in the clone's neck had prematurely gone off, and he had killed a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what got that whole arc going. And so Anakin's like, we got to find out why he just snapped. And they were saying it was post-traumatic stress syndrome because no one knows about the chips. And so Trent told Dooku about it, and Dooku told Palpatine, and Palpatine was like, you got to get that clone. We have to destroy it because it's not ready yet. And he goes, and we got to tighten up the programming so that this doesn't happen again, because my plan's not ready to go into effect quite yet. And so
Right.
you got to wonder if all this time he's at Echo, he's trying to figure out what this chip is and what this programming is, because no one told him exactly what it was. So, maybe Anakin does something rash, or, maybe even Rex, they take him out and he's like, hey, just so you guys know. And they just, like, kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't get to tell them, or maybe he wants to use it as a bargaining chip, and be like, hey, I know something you guys don't know. And if you keep me alive, I'll tell you what's going on with your clones.
Yeah. Hey, man, we'll just have to see for next week. I'm bad with predictions. I'm pretty sure the predictions we had last week, I was wrong on it too, but I'll have to go back and look.
But it's always fun to uh, be able to predict on the next week and see how close you are. I also am curious to see um, what is going on with Ahsoka and how her whole thing is going to go down, because it seems to me like there's two paralleling themes, because she's in the lower streets, right, with the people, and something's going on, and I'm just basing this off the trailers that I saw. And so it'll be interesting to see if the people are kind of rising up against the Republic itself because of things going down that we haven't been seeing. Because in war, you don't get the story about the civilians, right? The government obviously needs money, so they're throwing in a political thing, right? So you see the government obviously needs money. Where do they get that? Taxes. Taxes affect the people, that kind of a thing. It would be
Yeah.
really interesting to see how the people who aren't in Coruscant are living,
Oh, you got feelings.
I mean, it is a fascinating study. I mean, if you look at Star Wars in general, right, there's always been two sides to this battle in the Galactic Republic. Even when it's the Rebels versus the Empire, you've had places like Hoth, places like Tatooine, right, where all the scumbags and villainy, they all go for bounties, right? But
Yeah.
there's that need because the people are poor, and this war is affecting the people financially. And I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic between real life and the movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
it's as if George was very cleverly writing about social stuff, but he wasn't beating us over the head about it. He was letting us make our own conclusions. Isn't that crazy, LB?
Yeah, real crazy. What kind of man
Science
thinks like
fiction?
this?
I know. Science fiction actually putting relevant social themes without throwing it in there. You have to look for it and kind of dig.
uh, Weird
But
world.
I mean, I think this one's going to be a little bit more straightforward. But it is a relevant thing in Star Wars. And to tell you the truth, it's always been like a little thing I've been interested in. Like, dude, what's going on with the people? We see the Empire a lot. We see the Republic. We know Tatooine exists, and we know that these gangsters, these people are been able to thrive, right? And they have to be able to thrive for a reason. I mean, it's just like the mob, right? When did the mob thrive? They thrived in places where there was a disparity between the government and the people, right? A great example, and I know it's a weird parallel, but look at like bootlegging, for example, right? When was bootlegging at its height? It was when they did prohibition, right? Because there was a need, and the mob filled that need. Bootleggers running alcohol.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe I just get too deep with the stuff.
Hey, it's okay. You can get deep. Alcohol sounds great right now, though.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm definitely feeling it, but I also gotta get a pizza as well because the unicorn and I are gonna have pizza and then watch another great show that I found. That Parks and Recs is really funny. I never watched it until recently. I feel like I missed out on a funny show.
I'll let you have that show.
A lot of people say that, but I then again, sometimes I like that stupid comedy, and I'm not gonna lie, like Chris Pratt is hilarious. I did not realize how funny he was till I started watching that. I'm like, he's really pretty funny. But yeah, but anyways, this was a great episode. I liked it. I think that going forward, these are going to be pretty exciting, and I'm still sticking with our theory, man. I still think they're going to do a part two to this. I
Yeah,
don't see them wrapping this up in 12 episodes. I don't.
I'm sticking to it for the rest of the season.
Now, here's an interesting thing. When do you think they'll announce a part two? Do you think they're going to wait to see how the crowd receives these
They,
episodes?
they'll announce it at the end of the season after the last episode.
That'll be interesting because here's how we know whether or not a part two is going to come. If they definitively end this show with no cliffhanger, then I'll be like, oh, all right. But if they have a cliffhanger, then we're going to know that it's always been planned for them to do a part two.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's coming.
But I mean, that's pretty much it for my thoughts on this. I think that it's going really well. I don't care if these were older episodes that they're just repurposing now or whatever. Uh, you know, I think that if these were older scripts, they just touched them up quite significantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, what's your if this was older episodes? Do you think these got rewrites, or do you think that they just had a script and they touched it up a bit instead, just animated it?
I know they removed the scene, but I don't know about the rest of the stuff. But I mean, it's probably like last weekend where they just changed minor details. So
Yeah, I mean, this still has the feel that Clone Wars had, and I gotta say, it's nice to watch a show that feels like Star Wars. Like I've been saying, man, I've been watching Picard, and like that feels like a sci-fi show that took the name Star Trek, but it doesn't feel like Star Trek. It just feels like a science fiction show. This feels like Star Wars. Like I felt like I was watching a Star Wars product, and that I mean more than Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I mean, Rise of Skywalker was a giant mess. This feels a lot tighter. It feels like they got a plan. It feels like this is all leading towards something. And, I'm really excited to keep on reviewing these.
Hmm.
Plus, it gives me something to talk about on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Always good stuff to talk about.
So, yeah, I mean, we're pretty much at the hour mark. I got nothing past the new episode. You got anything to add or?
No, no, man. We covered everything. I look forward to talking about it next week. It was a good episode. No complaints. I mean, it's only 20 minutes. The episodes are only 22 minutes. So it's like, you can't really drag out a conversation about it.
No, no. And I mean, I was gonna do a separate review, but I was just like, yeah, I'll just do them as a live review
Yeah,
after a couple of days. Because I know when you live stream, it's hard for you to just give all your thoughts and bring up details that you like, while you're, like you said, trying to pay attention to the chat and the episode simultaneously.
exactly.
So, anyways, guys, we've had a fun time kind of breaking it down. Anyone have any questions about the episode before we call this, or anything you want to add? Throw it in those comments. But I mean, this was some pretty solid stuff. I think the writing is good. I'm really loving it. I'll probably go and watch them again. I'll probably watch them back to back with the other Clone Wars, and then when this is all done, I'll watch Rebels again because I know everyone loves that. I might just do like, uh, reviews on Rebels the series just because.
Yeah, I wouldn't waste your time.
Yeah, I just like talking. But anyways, LB, as we're wrapping this up, tell people. I know you had a new video. It was very entertaining. Why can't people stop fighting at Disney? What is going on? What is going on?
Hey, man, people drink the hot sun, causes idiots to be more idiotic.
Yeah, and you know, I was talking about this the other day with someone. It's like you pay so much money. Why in the world would you want to start a fight and get kicked out after what you're at least at 200 by the time you get actually into the park? And that's not including trying to do everything, and you got to stay multiple days because you can't possibly do everything in one day.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's life. Whatever.
Oh, and we have PB saying Twitter is fun.
Yeah, I enjoy Twitter.
Yeah, it's been fun. And look, when I drop these Twitter links, I'm just dropping them to like let people know about the show, not to comment on other things. Oh boy. Anyways, you got anything new coming out? Anything you want to let the fine folks know about?
No, nothing new. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
After this, everybody go check out. Uh, Thank you, PB. Everybody after this, go check out Mad Squirrel. She's got something going down. What is she doing tonight over there on her channel?
She's talking about the coronavirus.
I will bring the limes.
Yeah.
But
Sounds
yeah,
like fun.
that's a pretty serious topic, so that'll be a interesting one. So, are you gonna be there on the coronavirus panel?
I'm gonna be in the chat. I don't know if I'll be on the stream. Depends who there.
Awesome, awesome. So, guys, go check out Mad Squirrel's channel. show her some love. She's got some awesome content. She reviews OG movies and does a lot of talks, a lot more informative than General Zod. I just do the ridiculousness, but she covers the serious world events. So definitely go check that out over there. As for me, I shot my video for The Invisible Man. I was gonna put it out, but then I decided it's going to be my first spoiler review, so it's gonna be like a 15-minute video. Because when reviewing the movie, I realized I cannot properly critique it and convey my issues with the movie without actually telling you some scenes, because there's some things that I have to highlight as to why I think it's an okay movie, but it's not what the critics hype it up to be. Like I had fun with the movie, I enjoyed it, but I really want to break down why I think people are kind of just like hyping this movie up and they're not looking at the real like perspective of film. Like some things are quite ridiculous that happen in the way that they happen. So I'm gonna break that down for you guys. We'll be returning on Monday with late night talks. I have a schedule. I think I'm gonna do Mondays and Thursdays from now on. It is kind of keep it two nights a week until I can figure out exactly how many times I want to stream, because Fridays and Saturdays I just got tons of things going on, and through the weeks I got a lot of things going on. So I'm gonna
Sounds
do
like
Monday.
excuses.
Oh yeah, my real world problems. I blame everyone but myself. And I'm gonna do a Phantom Zone talks. I'm just siphoning through guests that I'm thinking of, but I'll surprise you. It'll be out a day. And of course, I'm gonna do a review on Altered Carbon. I decided I'm gonna do a series breakdown. I can't do a short review. That show has too many layers, so I'm going to do an in-depth video with pictures and everything. I'm going to show you guys my favorite scenes, talk to you about the different characters, kind of give you a breakdown, and how this is by far the best science fiction show, hands down, on television. It's so good. They have Michael Shanks from Stargate in the show. They have a lot, like, there were a lot of special guest cameos that I did not expect. They weren't in the releases for the show or anything. So it's a great show, and I'm going to do a review on that. But anyways, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new, hit the subscribe button. I'm up to 388. I'd like to reach 400 by, the end of the year. That'd be nice.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. Or I'll just be stuck in like the 300 to 400 limbo. But as always, remember the only rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod.
Sure.